afternoon, class. My name is Cody Fry. I've been with Brookline for about a year and a half now. I've been in the fire service for just over 5 years. So I have a little bit of experience in this field that we're going to go over today. We're going to go over Chapter 10, Structural Search and Rescue, out of the 7th edition, Essentials of Firefighting. So to begin class today, we're going to be going over this chapter. There's going to be a test. Then as soon as the test is done, we're going to go out to the bay, we're going to work on skills, and then you're going to have a skills evaluation. So learning objective 1, explain the best practices to ensure firefighter survivability during interior operations. Firefighting is an inherently dangerous job, so we're going to have to recognize all potential hazards, escape unavoidable hazards, rescue or lost or trapped firefighters. We're going to talk about some situational awareness, some things that we need to be conscious of when we're talking about situational awareness on a fire scene is the location of the fire, the extent of the fire, the changes of the fire behavior, changes in the smoke behavior. Make sure you indicate with IC that if the visibility changes. Also note that if the neutral plane changes, which is when the gas layers are getting lower to the ground. Kind of talked about smoke color changes, the velocity of smoke, behavior of the smoke. Also, something that needs to be indicated is the known locations of occupants or victims. You need to be observant of your team and yourselves' air supplies at the start and during operations. Always keep in the back of your mind as you're moving through the interior of a fire. Keep in mind of a possible safe haven or alternate exit routes. Listen and be visual on indications of ceiling and floor collapse. What conditions should be reported to other team members and supervisors during the search and rescue operations?
Potential collapse.
Okay.
Number of victims or occupants?
Yep.
Smoke and fire conditions.
Yep. So, personal preparation for survival. Practice sound firefighting techniques. We talked about this time and time again. The basic, boring firefighter skills is something that we need to hone our skills on because that, at the end of the day, is just something that's going to save our lives. Practice situational awareness. Always keep your head on a swivel. Keep an eye on the ever-changing environment around you. Anticipate types of survival situations you may face. Once again, on a fire scene, fire's unpredictable. So just keep an eye out and do what you have to do. Practice Mayday and self-rescue. This is one of those tasks that most probably departments don't practice a whole lot of Maydays. We don't have the ability to practice a whole lot of self-rescues. So when you get an opportunity to try to bust through an exterior wall during a training event, take it up. Mayday events, you can do that on gear workout days. So you get to your low air alarm, start the Mayday process, or not really at low air alarm, but when you get to like 500 psi on your gear workout day, start a Mayday, say Mayday, 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 firefighter 1 or engine 1 firefighter, whatever your assignment is to that day. Low air alarm going off 500 psi. Last known location, separated from crew, last known location, Alpha Bravo, corner, bedroom. Make sure you check your own and your team members, teammates' air supply. When you're working in a fire environment, a lot of times you're going 90 to nothing. Until that low air alarm goes off, you're not monitoring your air supply. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Monitor your air, monitor your partner's air. Practicing the basic skills until they become automatic. We kind of talked about that earlier. The basic boring skills is what's gonna, at the end of the day, it should be what you should be relying on. Your physical and mental preparation. Practice the basic skills. Pose advancements. Forcible entry. Things on that nature. Train for the hazards that you're gonna encounter. Practice air management techniques. That's gonna be your box breathing, skip breathing. Practice your emergency exit techniques. Part of your mental preparation and physical preparation is making sure your PPE matches your environment. So you're not gonna go into a fire without your SCBA. So make sure you have everything on that is required of you. Know your duties. Your duties is what you're being tasked with. That could either be fire attack, primary search, secondary search, overhaul. It's limitless on what your task could be on a fire scene. Know your physical limitations. I can only push myself so far, but if you can only push yourself so far, but pay attention and watch your teammates. If they're starting to struggle, it's probably a good indication you need to get out. Know the limitations of your PPE and air supply system. So with that statement, we always need to be checking the manufacturer's recommendations and seeing what their specifications on how long it could be in a certain environment. We talked just a minute ago about always be on the lookout for your crew members, both their air supply and watching them. If they're starting to drag a little bit, it's probably a good time to get out. Listen to your team members. If you have a team member that has a low air alarm going off, but you still have 500-600 PSI more than them, their air bottle is what you're basing your decision off of, not yours. Follow all orders thoughtfully, but if you don't understand it, ask for clarification. Warning, PPE has specific limitations and will not protect you from all hazards if it goes beyond that range during a search and rescue operation. Practice situational awareness. This is looking for key signs and fire behavior indicators, particularly those associated with rapid fire development. You're going to listen, feel, watch for changes in the environment. You're going to watch for, turbulent smoke. You're going to watch for flow path. You're going to see smoke moving by. It's turbulent and moving at a high rate of speed. There's been a new flow path created. Recognizing the psychological effects of obscured vision. This comes in some forms here of disorientation, fear, claustrophobia, and panic. Some ways you can overcome the psychological effects of obscured vision conditions. Try to remain calm. Control your breathing. Once we talk kind of about that, my preferred method of controlling my breathing is skip breathing. It helps bring me down. Maintain situational awareness. Stay in contact with your partners. Focus on assigned task. If you can focus on what you're supposed to be doing, the effects of vision control may lessen a little bit because you're not really concerned about lack of visibility, but you're focusing on that one task. Rely on your other senses. And if this becomes a common occurrence on a fire scene, happens time and time again, you should probably seek professional assistance. And a lot of departments have a program or somebody you can reach out to help you with that. List 3 actions that a firefighter can take to better prepare themselves for survival in a hazardous condition.
Practice skills.
Practice basic skills.
Train for Mayday.
Train for Maydays.
Know your target.
Limitations.
Yeah.
Mayday situations. Mayday situations could be air emergencies, lost and disoriented, entanglement, rapid fire development. So air emergencies could be anything from low air, your SCBA mask is not functioning, your regulators just went out, Lost and disoriented, that can happen real easy with low visibility. You can get separated from the hose line or your teammates because you're not staying in physical contact with it. Entanglement could be ceiling tiles that come down inside of a shopping mall or something like that. Rapid fire development. Sometimes a flow path gets created and the fire gets too big and cuts you off from your exit path, so you're going to have to seek a safe haven in that situation and then call out a mayday and try to self-rescue. Collapse or trapped, and when the building structure collapses around you, you become pinned underneath debris. We're going to talk about tenability. Untenable environments may remain tenable for firefighters if there's no evidence of structural collapse, if heat levels and duration of operation stay within the acceptable limits of your PPE. So once again, know what your manufacturer specifications is on your heat limits. Environments can change swiftly due to the fact of sudden and unexpected spread of fire and temperature increase, the lack of structural stability and possible collapse. The big one here is the buildup of smoke and products of combustion that can cause a flashover. At that time, if you see the buildup of black smoke and all that, we should probably be trying to cool that environment if we were on a hose line. If we're not on a hose line, we need to be getting out. If the environment becomes untenable, personnel must be alerted. Personnel should evacuate or take shelter in a safe haven. If you're going to take shelter in a safe haven, notify the IC that all personnel are either evacuated or taking shelter. So possible safe havens are where you might find occupants. Firefighters can use door control and safe havens as survival procedures. Notify IC if you seek shelter in a safe haven. So that's just saying you can't get out the way you came in, you can't find any other way. So you're going to seek a safe haven to try to conserve air or self-rescue. What hazards must a firefighter be prepared to face during interior operations?
Collapse.
Collapse,
Change in condition.
change in condition, fire behavior, smoke conditions. Principles of air management. So you should always know what you have before you enter an IDLH environment, and then you should always be constantly maintaining a visual of how much air you've consumed and how much air you have left at that point. Know where your point of no return is. That's basically how far you can go in before you can't come back out. Inform your IC if you must exit the structure. So common practice, once your low air alarm comes off, you start the process of coming out. Notify IC, low air alarm's going off, request a team to relieve you for whatever assignment you have. Do a pressure gauge check. You're going to do that before you enter an IDLH environment. When moving from one area to another, after periods of hard work, at specific intervals based on SOPs, when resting, before beginning a new assignment, when assigned area is reached. That'd be a good way to know if you've reached that point of no return when you're trying to get to an assigned area. Point of no return is based on how much air it is required to exit the IDLH environment. The lowest cylinder gauge reading of any team member is gospel. That's what you're going off of. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what yours is, it's that lowest reading. It's also based off your SOPs, the environmental conditions, team's physical and mental conditions. Caution, air consumption varies widely between individuals. Just because a cylinder says it's 45-minute cylinder, 4,500 PSI, does not mean it's going to last 45 minutes. My cylinder's a 45-minute PSI cylinder, it lasts maybe 32 minutes. air management and emergency. So never leave your team. Never leave a team member in a hazardous environment. You're always going to stay in constant communications with your team and the IC or any supervisor that you have, letting them know what condition or what problems you're having. So possible solutions to an air emergency: stay low to the ground and ensure the valve is open, opening the bypass valve only as needed and directed by SOPs. Fix or bypass malfunctions if possible. Use air sharing techniques that equipment and SOPs allow. So a lot of the officer packs on the engines have a buddy breather cable, so you can kind of bleed off the highest bottle into another bottle to try to conserve air. So when that happens, you get the air that you guys can get into that other bottle and make your way out. If trapped or disoriented, try to stay calm. That's a big one. Try to stay calm. Activate your pass device and control your breathing until rescue arrives. Depending on what situation it is, if you're in a safe haven, it may be easier to stay calm. It may be easier to control your breathing, but if you're trapped under debris, that's probably not going to work out the best for you. So you got to have that strong mental clarity to force yourself to just calm down and control your breathing. If your SCBA regulator is inoperable and air remains in your cylinder, you can open the bypass valve and provide positive pressure and breathe directly from the cylinder. If air runs out before rescue comes and there's no other option, you can bust the seal on your mask and take a breath and then seal it back up. Your Nomex will kind of act as a filter to keep some of that out. Warning: if you have any air emergency, try to shelter yourself from an IDLH if necessary or possible. What are the 3 key principles to air management?
Keep calm,
Keep going.
activate your pass.
Activate pass. Well, that's not really a management technique, but breathing control would be one. Once again, I would say know your limitations. If you're putting out a lot of work effort, you're gonna go through that bottle a lot quicker. Shelter in place, transmit a mayday. Remember to stay calm and control your breathing. Go into an uninvolved and nearby room if possible and close the door, which is your safe haven. Whenever you get into that room, try to draw attention to it by either shining a light in a window, banging on the interior or exterior wall with the interior side of it, so that firefighters outside might be able to hear you, and continue to communicate with radio. You're going to activate your pass device. You're going to continue to listen for sounds and clues that would provide your location. Isolate yourself from the fire compartment. What actions should be taken if it's necessary for you to shelter in place?
Activate pass.
Activate pass.
Keep in communication,
Keep-
IC.
Keep in communication with IC.
Make sure it's a safe haven.
Okay. So basically, you're gonna make sure you're shielded from the fire compartment. What type of emergency situation would require a firefighter to shelter in place rather than escape?
Potential collapse.
Potential collapse,
Locked exits.
blocked exits,
Injury.
injuries. Learning objective 3. We're going to describe structural search and rescue operations. So, training knowledge for structural search. Search preparation, search safety and guidelines, fire isolation procedures, search markings, primary and secondary search techniques, and searching methods. Search preparation. Know who you're reporting to, so if you have a supervisor, if it's a big scene and there's multiple supervisors there, know who you're reporting to. Make sure your portable radio is turned on, working, and set to the correct channel. Because if it's a big scene, there may be multiple TAC channels that you're operating off of. Make sure your SCBA is turned on, working, and contains a full cylinder of air. You're never going to go into an IDLH environment with less than a full bottle of air. Make sure when you turn your SCBA bottle on, your pass device is activated and it's in working condition. Because once again, your pass device with no motion should be set off after 30 seconds of not moving. Know your duties and objectives you're trying to accomplish. When you're going into this environment, make sure you keep in mind alternative routes to egress. Gather as much knowledge of building floor plans as you can, either by pre-incident surveys, if you have past history at that location for other emergencies. Make sure you go in with all necessary tools, your forcible entry tools, hand lights, your thermal imagers, water cans, search lines. So building floor plans can come from inspections, pre-incident surveys, architectural plans, and personal observations. It's always good that if you can get the opportunity while somebody's building a house, take a tour of it to see how that building's built, because houses built back in the 60s and 70s was built with a different type of lumber. They last longer under fire conditions. These houses now, they don't last as long because of the lightweight lumber that we're using. You know, that brick could be a facade. It may not actually be a brick wall. Observe the structures in your response area. We've got some big houses like that. We don't have any hotels in this area, but in your jurisdictions, make sure that you know what types of structures you guys have currently in that area. Some of the tools and equipment that you're going to need is your forcible entry tools, your flashlights, your thermal imagers, your charge hose lines, water cans, ropes for search lines, ladders whenever necessary and applicable in that situation. Your thermal imagers uses allows firefighters to see heat sources through darkness and smoke. It can be used to locate victims if conditions are right. It can also help you locate hidden fires in walls, and it will identify temperature differentials. The advantages of using a thermal imager: it enhances your situational awareness. It can improve your visibility in an obscure environment. Provides additional information during your search. You can tell what the temperature is doing by just scanning the room. It may also be useful in locating a victim or the seat of the fire, or any hidden fires that are behind a wall. Limitations: it won't go through furniture. You won't be able to find a person behind furniture or the opposite side of a wall. You can't see through any reflective objects such as glass, water. You probably won't be able to see a fire in a basement fire through the carpet. Information about uses and requirements, manufacturer's documentation, NFPA 1408 and NFPA 1801. Inspection and maintenance. Always inspect it during your on-shift truck checks. Inspect it after every use. Replace batteries or charge batteries as needed. Clean it regularly, especially right after you leave a fire scene, because it's always going to collect dirt and debris. Report any damage or malfunction immediately. If it's damaged, report it to your chain of command. They'll either try to send it off to the manufacturer for repair, or if it's severely damaged, probably just have to deadline it and order a new one.
Do you have spares at the station if one is malfunctioning of some sort?
We do have some on other, like, reserve trucks that we could probably pull from. You should not rely solely upon the information, or your thermal imager should not be used for all information that you're gathering from the fire. It will not replace your senses and observations, and it will fail underneath certain fire conditions because once again, it's like your SCBA. It's only rated for so much heat. What should firefighters do to prepare for search and rescue operations?
Know the floor plan.
No alternate, means of egress.
Know what the objective is.
What tools and equipment should firefighters use during search and rescue operations?
Thermal imager.
Water can.
Water can, hose line,
Tools.
forcible entry tools, overhaul tools. What type of equipment is used in your jurisdiction for search and rescue?
Forcible entry tools.
Forcible entry tools,
Water can.
water can, thermal imager. Search and safety guidelines. Do not enter the structure when survivability or survivors are not likely to be found. Close all doors to create a protected area and avoid creating additional flow paths because that'll make the fire potentially grow at an exponential rate. Maintain control of exterior doors to control ventilation because if you create a flow path, you're just going to feed that fire. If there's a possibility of rapid fire development, do not enter until coordinated by fire control and ventilation has been implemented. Do not freelance. So when you go into a structure to fight a fire, do what you're supposed to do. If you're on a fire attack, that's what your sole job is to do. That's not saying that if you're on fire attack, you may trip over a victim. That may happen, but don't leave that hose line. Somebody will come in and help you, or you'll be relieved. Maintain radio contact with the IC. So as the environment constantly changes, make sure IC is aware of it. If the thermal layer is dropping, let IC know. If the fire conditions, fire behavior changes, IC needs to know. They'll make the determination at that point in time. It may be safer just to go ahead and evacuate all teams out of the house. Monitor radio traffic for information or changes in orders. Like I said before, if conditions are worsening, IC may come back and say, evacuate. They may sound three air horn tones out the attack engine. That tells everybody to get out of the structure. You're going to continue to monitor fire conditions. And whenever you enter an IDLH environment, remember to use the personal accountability system. We use the PUC system with our nameplates. Be aware of your entry point and keep in mind of all potential secondary egress points. Always wear full PPE, including SCBAs, everything that you're going to need for that environment, and make sure it's functioning properly. So you're not going to go in with a bottle that's not fully full of air or fully charged. You're not going to go in if your pass system's not activating when you turn the air onto your system. Remember to work in teams of 2 or more. Always maintain a physical, verbal, or visual contact with your partners. If you encounter a fire, close the door and report the conditions. So you're going to report it to your team. You're going to report it to the IC in charge. And then when you're doing your search, you're going to do a search systematically. Where visibility is limited, you're going to stay low and move more cautiously. Constantly monitor the structure's integrity and communicate changes to your team and IC once again. Mark all entry doors and remember the direction that you turn. When visibility is obscured, maintain contact with the wall, hose line, and search line. So that would be keeping foot contact with the wall, keeping hand contact with the wall, or some people will use a tool to stay in contact with the wall. Hose line, bump or smooth or bump, smooth, the pump, or as I said,
Smooth bump, bump.
smooth bump to the pump, to follow the hose line. Then at your search line, it's gonna be tethered outside the structure, so it could become a way to egress the situation. You just follow that line back out. Search and have a staffed and charged hose line available when working on fire floors or floors immediately above and below. Coordinate with IC and ventilation teams before creating exterior openings. Inform any supervisor or IC of any rooms that cannot be searched. Report promptly to your supervisor once the search is complete. List 5 safety guidelines for search and rescue operations.
Know your job.
Okay.
Report findings.
Report change of conditions or findings. Report rooms that can't be searched.
Stay with your team.
Stay with your team.
Keep contact.
Stay in contact. Stay in contact with your team. Stay in contact with the wall. Make sure you're wearing correct PPE for the environment you're going to be working in. Always work in teams of 2.
Check your gear.
We 2 in, 2 out policy here. So, fire isolation, locate and isolating the fire must be a priority before any search. This may be accomplished in many ways. Entering a search provides a ventilation opening. So as you enter that structure, you're gonna open a door that's gonna create another flow path. It's gonna put more oxygen into that building and possibly make that fire grow. Ensuring that fire does not spread should be a high priority. So going back to the other one, make sure that as you enter a structure, however you enter, if you enter through a door, try to secure the door to your best ability to limit that flow path. The marking systems, you're gonna do a slash when you enter a room or a structure. Secondary slash when you're exiting the structure. So that after you do your secondary slash, it's gonna be an X. At the main entrance of the search markings, you're gonna have your X. So you entered, you exited, and then you put the time, the date that you've been in there on the top, the search team name, or however you wanna do it. Then your hazards right here, they have rats. And then right here is total victims still inside the structure. And down here, if there's an X, there's no victims. So here they have 2 living and then 3 dead. So you can, they're saying use orange paint here, lumber crown or chalk. Kind of looks like he's got a marker there doing it. I would say whatever you have in your pocket will suffice to let them know that it's been searched. So, what marking systems does your jurisdiction use for search and rescue?
Sharpie?
Sharpie. So, primary search. Rapidly determine the locations of victims. It is a fast and thorough search, and it's usually done before or during fire suppression. Quickly check known or likely victim locations and affected areas. As you're going through your search, always keep an eye on the fire conditions and report any changes that is happening. Work in crew of 2 or more and maintain your physical, visual, or verbal contact. Your secondary search is always going to be slow, thorough search conducted after the fire is under control. It's going to be a methodical search. The first time is going to be a real hasty search. You're going to go in there on your secondary search. You're going to be more thorough with it. You're going to lay stuff over, get up there and actually look in the crevices a little bit better in more detail. It's often conducted by different personnel than the primary search, do we know why that is?
Just a different set of eyes.
Fresh set of eyes. Use the same systematic steps as a primary search. So if the primary search goes in with a left-hand search, hypothetically, they should go in with a left-hand search and go that same route. Do not remove your SCBA until it's determined it's safe to do so. A lot of departments have a gas meter or a way to detect if the IDLH environment is now survivable and that the conditions have changed where it's okay to remove it. What's the difference between primary and secondary search?
Primary's
Primary's
fast, secondary slow.
Slow and methodical. So search method, each department has its own procedures. Specialized search methods are an oriented search, a wide area search, and searching using a thermal imager. So here's an image of a left-hand search pattern. They're moving down a hallway on the left-hand side, keeping contact with the wall. They come to a doorway. If you're running a crew of 3, you may have somebody post here at this doorway and you have 2 members enter this and search this room, staying in constant contact with the left side and working their way clockwise around the room and exiting back out that same doorway where you posted your partner at, and then working your way back down the hallway, moving through all the rooms. Searching the fire floor. When we start searching as a primary search or as the primary search, you're gonna go into the house and you're gonna try to get as close to the seat of the fire as you can and begin your primary search. And then you're gonna work your way back towards the entrance. Proceed directly as possible from the entry point to nearest the point of the fire. Hose line and search line will help provide a way to remain oriented. Here is another image of the search team methods. This is the top one's gonna be a 2-team search method where you got one team of 2 that's doing a right-hand search, and then you got a team of 2 doing a left-hand search on opposite sides of a hallway. So this could be at a hotel, motel, apartment complex maybe. As they're clearing office building, as they're clearing rooms, they're moving down both sides at the same time. Your one search team, they're gonna start either with a left-hand search or a right-hand search. This image right here is showing them starting with a left-hand search, working their way through each individual room back out to the hallway, searching again, getting to the end of the hallway, and then coming back on the opposite side with the left-hand search and doing the same thing as they did on the far side. Control your egress passageways. Stage a firefighter at the door of the search room to control the door. Close doors at all adjacent rooms after they've been searched. Position hose team to cool the accumulated gases. Use a thermal imager to search for victims of fire. Remember to always get low to the floor to perform a survey. Thermal layering may be sinking, so your best chance would be get as close to the floor as you can. Scan the floor, and you might be able to tell what kind of room you're in, if you see victims, if there's any obstacles inside that room. And if there's minimal smoke and you can do so safely, you can walk upright. If the smoke conditions worsen, you may have to go into a kneeling or a crawling search, or if extreme heat. Warning, if you encounter extreme heat or cannot see your feet through the smoke, you should not be walking upright. Search methods. Victims may be found in pathways of egress and areas where they seek shelter. Search the perimeter of each room. Reach completely under beds and furniture. Place a tool against the wall and extend arm or leg to reach the middle of the room. limited visibility, you may need to touch certain things to be able to figure out what it is or what type of room you're in. Search on all sides of an object. So if you're on a bed, if you find a bed, search all 4 sides that you possibly can, up and underneath it. Make sure if you find a bed, go up high, because it may be a bunk bed, so you'll have to search it too. Report any obscured vision to the IC. When using a thermal imaging system, make sure you're doing it according to your department's SOPs. Remember to always scan at floor level, because you have better visibility at times than higher level, because that may be where the smoke's at, and it may be a little harder to penetrate for that thermal imager. Manually search beneath and behind all furniture, because once again, we talked about it earlier, a thermal imager can't go behind, or can't show you what's behind furniture or reflective objects. Open doors to scan inside the closets and cabinets. Scan may white out if it detects high levels of heat. Allow time for readjustment before proceeding. Maintain radio contact and constantly give a IC a progress report for your supervisor. Remember to close all doors of uninvolved rooms, because if you miss something and somebody's in there, closing that door off is going to make it still tenable, hopefully, for survivability. And if you missed it during a primary search, secondary should be in there to pick it up. Clear unused hose lines and equipment from egress pathways, because that creates tripping hazard. An oriented search. Here, you got a crew of 3. The bottom guy, person in the door, they're posted. You got a crew of 2 that's working their way around the room in a right-hand search. Their feet are in contact with the wall. They're sweeping the middle of the room with their tools, handles, and they're continuing to work their way around that wall, or around the room. Wide area search. You're going to anchor your search line approximately 10 feet away from the building. You're going to try to get it at least a couple feet off the ground, 2-3 feet off the ground. And then this is how your search team is entering the building. They're staying in contact with the lead, so they're staying along the rope. Then you got your navigator, who's got the thermal imager, making their way. These 2 individuals here have tools, so they're going to be the ones reaching out with their tools and sweeping and searching. Wide area search method using ropes, rings, and knots. So 1 knot, 20 foot, 2 knots, 40 foot, 3 knots, 60 foot, 4 knots, 80 foot, 5 knots, 100 foot is a way that you can tell how far you are on your search line. These rings right here may be indications of how far spacing to clip into a search line. Wide area search methods off the ring. So in this image here, you have your lead individual going to the exterior or to the outer wall. A firefighter has a rope tied off at a predetermined length and is either secured to that rope or carabiner to them, and they're sweeping the room with their tool in their body. And they're still staying in contact with that rope. So we're going to get into VEIS, which is vent, enter, isolate, and search. So we're going to use this method if there's an area that is tenable, that we have a suspected victim that's in, either the family's saying, my grandma's in this bedroom, or our children are in this bedroom. We're going to put a ladder up. We're going to bust out the window, knock all the window out as good as we can, Our first objective when we bust that window out, sound the floor, make sure it's structurally sound. We're gonna work our way along the wall to the door. We're gonna sweep the door, make sure there's nothing by that door. We're gonna shut the door if it was open, and that's gonna isolate this room off. We're gonna continue to move around this room. So here's there shutting the door off, isolate, and then we're gonna continue to search. So this victim was found in the closet. You're gonna yell, if you're positive for a victim, you're gonna yell victim, victim, victim. That's gonna let this person know right here that you found something. So VEIS, vent, enter, search, or vent, enter, isolate, search. It's a rapid search for individual rooms, and it's accessed by the exterior of the building. Usually chosen to when there are possible victims in a survivable area. Should only be initiated after scene size up. Rooms involved with fire or show that indications of backdraft or flashover should not be searched using VEIS, which is basically telling you that when you bust out a window, if there's those conditions there, you're feeding airflow through it, so that fire is gonna go. Only use for survivable areas that are unlikely to have fire extension when ventilated. Caution, crew integrity is a key to successfully completing VEIS. Verbal or physical contact is necessary to allow the searcher to leave through the entry point. How do thermal imagers aid in search operations?
You can find victims, essentially.
Potentially.
Hidden fires.
Let you know changing in the environment,
Worsening conditions.
worsening conditions. What's the difference between a wide area search and an oriented search?
Wide area search is mostly for like warehouses and hospital areas. It's a little wider area than a smaller house fire.
Also another key takeaway is wide area search is you're more than likely going to have a search line being utilized, where an oriented search you're going to stay in constant contact with either a hose line, a wall. What does the acronym VEIS stand for?
Vent, enter, isolate, search.
Good job. Give an example of a situation that might require the use of an oriented search technique.
House fire.
House fire. Give an example of a situation that would require a wide area search technique.
Strip mall.
Strip mall, warehouse. Good job. Okay, objective 4, describe victim removal methods. You're gonna, for victim self-evacuation, we're gonna assist the occupants. We're gonna direct them to all alternative exit routes. We're gonna close and maintain the integrity of exit paths. We're gonna establish safe havens if we have to. What duties might a firefighter have to do if a victim is able to self-evacuate?
Direct them to an exit.
Direct them to an exit.
Create safe haven.
Create a safe haven. Shelter in place is used when a hazard is minor, safer to keep victims inside, victims are incapacitated and cannot be moved, limited staffing to assist with the evacuation process, and the structure can provide a protective barrier between the victim and hazard. This is commonly going to be used in hospitals and nursing homes, correctional facilities, high rises, and high hazard industrial sites. This is an image of a shelter in place. That room has them isolated from the fire department. In what type of situation would sheltering in place be used instead of evacuation?
When the victim's unable to self-evacuate or incapacitated and unable to move.
Okay. Don't have egress access? Structural collapse maybe? removal techniques. Victims removal required when conditions present self-evacuation or sheltering in place. Victims are directly threatened. Firefighters' duties will be extinguish the fire that has cut them off from an exit, provide an alternative exit pathway, remove all debris from pinned victims, and carry injured and unconscious victims to safety. Remember that injured victims should not be moved until assessed or treated unless it is a danger to them or yourselves. So remember, if you find a patient like that, remember to assess them. Never pull on a victim, and always use proper lifting techniques. Lift as a team. Keep a focus on your balance. Whenever you have an SCBA pack on, your balance is going to be kind of thrown off because of the counterbalance. So keep that in mind. Always remember to support the head and neck of the victim. Avoid jerking a patient or a victim, and never drag a victim through a hazardous zone unless you have no other choice. We're going to go into these here in a little bit as the skills. We're going to do the incline drag, the extremity lift carry, and the webbing drag. But some other carries and drag that we need to talk about is the cradle and arm carry, the seated lift carry, and the litter carry. What methods can be used to remove victims from a hazardous situation?
Incline drag,
Incline drag,
Cradle will be nice.
cradle,
litter,
litter,
extremities, and then weapon.
Yep. Are there any questions on the content of this? Okay. So at this time, we're going to do the test. Good luck. Oh, you need pens?
I put it there.
Thank you. at this time, just take like a 5-minute break, and while I reset for the skills.